welcome in once again, everybody, to another what promises to be a very interesting edition of Pick Your Politics. I'm your host, Dennis Silvers. Got a great show for you today. We have a gentleman on who's running for a federal office, and as you know, we got a lot of local races going on, mayoral race, and it's almost here. June 11th, it's hard to believe that early voting is almost over. So the most important thing is, if you haven't voted, you got to get out and vote. Like I keep saying every show, you can talk, you can complain, whatever, but your vote matters. So whether you mail the thing in, do it in person or whatever, make sure that you get out to vote. Anyway, we got a gentleman on today that's very, very interesting, and his name is Marty O'Donnell. He's running for U.S. Congress in the 3rd District here in Nevada. Anyway, Marty, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks, Dennis. It's
glad to have
be on
you
your
on.
Show. Thanks.
Please tell all of our viewers what comprises Nevada's 3rd District?
Oh, that's a good one. It's been gerrymandered, of course, by the powers that be. It's pretty much the northwest side of Las Vegas.
Right.
It follows around down Summerlin. I think it ends at Ann Street, which is not very far north of where I live. It goes from Ann all the way down the 215. Encompasses where we are right now, and then it goes over to Henderson, and then takes all the way down to Laughlin.
Yeah, so it's a fairly big district.
It's a very big district, yeah. It's hard to. There are little nooks and crannies that they've carved out, which I don't understand, but that's the way that is.
You, of course, again are running for U.S. Congress.
Yeah.
What is the main responsibility of a U.S. congressman?
That's a
Marty.
Great question. That is, you know what? I was talking to April Becker, who's running for.
April's a sweetheart.
Oh yeah. And I said, look, April, because she ran for this office 2 years ago and came very close. So I was basically asking her advice about what's going on here, and we had a great talk. But I said, look, April, at the end of the day, you're going to influence my life way more than I should ever influence your life. I'm a conservative since I was 9 years old, and I believe in the Constitution and the Federalist Papers. And the way the system is set up is the federal government should not be affecting people's lives that much when it comes to their everyday lives. It's the state power, local government. The federal government has some enumerated powers, and I want to make sure that I stay within those boundaries, which is, national defense and the border and immigration and foreign policy. Right now, the federal government does way too much. So if anything, my goal is to have the federal government do less.
Do less, yeah. And I think a lot of people would agree.
I hope so.
Would agree with you on that. What got you thrown into the race anyway? You got a great life. You have a great background. Speaking of background,
sure.
Real briefly, tell our viewers a little bit about your background. He's all about music. He's all about production. A lot of great stuff.
Well, the interesting thing for me is, like I said, when I was 9 years old, I think that's when I saw the Beatles hit Ed Sullivan. And so as a musician, I was already playing the piano and doing my thing. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be great to... I want to be one of those guys. I want to be Paul McCartney, basically. But then within a few months later, literally, I'm watching Ronald Reagan introduce Barry Goldwater to the world in 1964, A Time for Choosing speech, which was burned into my head. And I remember telling my Mom, I'm a conservative. I'm going to be a conservative. She probably thought, what's wrong with that boy? But anyway, I went down the path of music, but always had politics as something in the back of my mind. I've always been very interested in politics. I went to D.C. in '96 to the National Review Convention there, and I got to meet Bob Dole and some other, folks.
Nice.
I went to the Democrat National Convention in Chicago in '96 as a secret reporter for a conservative talk show host out of
love that.
Chicago. And I looked at that point. I looked like a musician. I fit right in with the Democrats. I was staunch Republican, but I wore my Rush Limbaugh tie. So, do you remember when Rush Limbaugh was selling ties?
Oh, yeah.
I still have it, by the way.
I loved Rush Limbaugh.
It was fun because I met Mary Matlin, who's James
yeah,
Carville's wife, and she looked at me. I went up to everybody and introduced myself, and she looked at me and she says, "You're at the wrong convention, babe." And so I said, "Yeah, you can see my tie." I turned around, Rush Limbaugh, But I had a blast. I remember just being sort of horrified by that convention, and at the time, Clinton I just couldn't believe that he was going to get reelected. I was pulling for Bob Dole, but anyway, that's always been a sidelight for me. But I went into music. I got a master's in music composition from USC. Went into music production, original music and production for commercials and film and television. And then
that's awesome.
Yeah, I did a lot of jingles that people know, like "We Are Flintstones Kids, 10 million strong and growing." That was
And
my
we'll
daughter.
talk about the Halo series.
Yeah, and then I switched in the mid-'90s. I went over and started doing video games. And that was kind of fun because I was able to expand, the palette. The art was now, instead of a little 30-second, 60-second frame, I could do these long 50 minutes, hour, 2 hours worth of music for video games. And the big game, of course, was Halo. I did 10 years of Halo games, 5 different Halo games. Then I went on to do Destiny.
Right.
And while I was doing Destiny, I got to work at Abbey Road with Paul McCartney. So I finally...
Talking about fate?
Yeah, I finally sort of fulfilled my Paul McCartney dream, and now I guess I'm fulfilling my Barry Goldwater dream.
Yeah,
So,
hey. Biggest difference between you and Susie Lee, who is the Democrat that's currently holding this office.
well, the biggest difference is I am a Republican conservative federalist who believes in the Constitution. From what I can tell, Susie is a typical Democrat, goes along with Joe Biden until it gets close to election time. Then suddenly she's interested in the border. Okay. I believe that my principles are unshakable, and I don't need the power. I don't need the job. I'm not looking at this as a career. I'm looking at this as a duty. Paying back the country, United States, America, my family. We've benefited so much from what this nation provides, and I just feel like it's my duty to do what I'm supposed to do in Congress.
That's great. That's because it's not easy. Like I keep saying, all the people on the show. It's like 24/7 being a politician. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And you're talking to people, you're knocking on doors, you're having fundraisers, you're having meet and greets, town halls, whatever. It's not easy. You've received numerous awards for both the audio and music for the very popular Halo series, as you mentioned. Of all of the numerous awards, Marty, that you have been recognized with, and there's a lot, folks, believe me. Do you have a favorite?
Wow. Well, I have two. Let me just say one. One was very shocking to me. I got the best music from Rolling Stone magazine, which, is the kind of thing you read as you're growing up, But they finally did an award for best video game music, and then they only did it once, and I got it. And then they never did it again. So I kind of like that one.
Yeah, that's
I have
a good
the little
thing.
Rolling Stone statue, and I'm like the only person who has one. So that's kind of cool. The one I think that means the most to me is probably the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Game Audio Network Guild, which is all of my friends, and I guess you could call them competitors, but they don't feel like competitors in the game audio field. It's gotten bigger and bigger, as you can imagine, and to get the Lifetime Achievement Award meant a lot to me from those guys.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't blame you at all. Marty O'Donnell is our special guest here on this edition of Pick Your Politics. You received the endorsement of a friend of mine,
Good.
great guy, Governor Joe Lombardo.
Yeah.
How well do you know Governor Lombardo? And I'm assuming you've had some interaction with him?
Yeah, I think you had Rafael Arroyo on
Yes.
a little while ago, and he's the guy that actually sort of got me into this. My daughter has a 501c3, a nonprofit called Foster Kinship, and so she has to deal with political issues periodically. And she says, "Hey, Dad, you should meet this guy. He's really good. He's a businessman. He's
Yeah,
conservative.
yeah.
You'd like him, and maybe you can help him out." So I called him, and we had a great chat. And then he said, "Look, let me have some of the people who work with me. I'll have them contact you." And it turned out to be Governor Lombardo's campaign people, November Inc. and Red Rock.
Red Rock, yeah.
Yeah. So I started talking to the people from there and said, "How can I help?" Because I was figuring, I want to see Republicans do well. 2 years ago, I sort of dipped my toe in the water here in Nevada. I'd been here a little over a year, and so we've been visiting here my daughter's lived here for 15 years, and we've been supporting her charitable work, and this has been like a second home for the last 15 years. But 3.5 years ago, we moved here, bought a house up in Lone Mountain. So anyway, I wanted to see what's going on with the Republican Party here in the state and in Clark County, and started to get a little bit more involved. And I was disappointed at what happened in the last election, to see some of the Republicans I really wanted to see not win. But Joe Lombardo did win, and that was the one huge bright spot for me. So anyway, as I'm talking to some of the guys from November Inc., especially a guy named Jeremy, who I was asking, well, how can I help the party? How can I help what's going on here? And as we talked, a couple of conversations, he said, well, have you ever considered running for Congress? And I was just dead silent. And he goes, well, you're not laughing. And I said, no, because this seems crazy. Anyway, I spent the weekend talking to my wife and my daughters and praying about it, because I've always felt like if you ever get the opportunity to go to Congress, I feel like it's jury duty. It's like, instead of instead of trying to get out of your duty, you should do your duty and then go back home to the farm like they intended.
Yeah.
Nobody's supposed to have a career in this thing. And I'm always throwing my shoes at the television, being mad at these people who I look at them and why do you think this is your career? Why do you think you deserve to be there forever? And there's many we can mention who have been there too long. By the way, yes, I believe in term limits. And the nice thing about me is I'm self-limiting.
That's good.
The road's getting shorter for me as I look ahead.
That's good.
Anyway, when I called Jeremy back, I said, okay, if I were to do this, I'd sort of gotten the approval of my wife and daughters, which was not easy.
Yeah.
And I said, if I were to do this, what's the next step? And they said, well, we want you to meet with the governor on Friday. And I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't seem like a next step. That seems like a leap.
Yeah.
But I did. I got to meet with Governor Lombardo. We hit it off. He was so encouraging. He's such a nice guy.
Yeah, Joe's a great
we had
guy.
a great guy talking and a great time talking. And I still hadn't actually decided yet. So I thought that was pretty nice of him to just be encouraging to me and give me the lay of the land, what it's like, what the pitfalls could be, but also what the benefits could be. He talked about how many great people he's met and how satisfying it's been for him personally to be doing what he's doing. So that was very encouraging. And then when I talked again to Jeremy, I said, okay, why really are you guys asking me? And he said something that was meaningful. He said, it's so hard to find good people to run for office. And this is not me. This is not about me being a good person, but it's about if I'm mad at the people who were in office, but I'm not willing to put myself forward, then I have no excuse.
Yeah. Right.
And if I feel like it's mostly bad people, there's a reason for that. Normal, good people really kind of don't want to get into the cesspool that I think politics can be.
It's really tough, and it's hard to find good, qualified people that are going to jump in 100%.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get the governor down here to play some golf, so
there you go.
Maybe you'll get your clubs out again.
I got my clubs,
and join us for 9 holes or whatever.
Sure.
As I mentioned earlier that The president incumbent is Susie Lee. How has she failed, in your estimation, to represent the third district?
I've looked at her record, and up until just like a year ago, she has voted 100% of the time with Joe Biden. And Joe Biden, in my opinion, certainly in my 69 years of existence, is the worst president I've ever seen. And everything that he's done has been the wrong decision when it comes to the border, when it comes to energy, when it comes to the economy. Foreign policy is a complete, utter mess. And she has supported him 100%. And now in this election year, she seems to want to present herself as a centrist. I don't see how she's representing the people here. The people here are hardworking business owners, family people, working class, middle class. And, from what I can tell, she's buying, it looks like insider trading when it comes to stocks. She's voting for things. She's allowing things to happen that are detrimental to the people of this district.
Yep. When you walk, knocking on doors and whatever, what are people telling you? When you, present yourself, I'm running for Congress and blah, blah, blah. And they go, oh, my God, Marty, if you only could do this, what about this? And what are you hearing from these people?
Well, I'll tell you, the other day I heard this gorgeous woman, probably I think she was almost 90, just bright eyes, and she's just said, oh, an Irishman. I said, well, I'm more than that. But anyway, everybody is talking about immigration and the economy, almost 100%. That is some of the biggest. And I think both of those things are related. You can't have the amount of illegal immigrants in the state of Nevada, in Clark County. Yeah. It's, hundreds of thousands of illegals are here. Now, there's no way that doesn't affect the economy, that has to affect housing.
Sure.
It's affecting everything, prices. It's affecting the differential between income and inflation. Cost of bread is double what it was. Compared to the increase in just the cost of bread, the increase of the cost of gas is 5 times what it was compared to the increase in income. And people are feeling it.
No doubt.
It's not something, you don't go to an economist and have them give you some sort of, arcane definition of recession or whatever. People feel it when they go to the gas pump, when they go to the grocery store, and when they look at their paycheck and they see how much is taken out for taxes. I mean, immigration and the economy are huge.
Plus,
I would say too, there's that third element of like what is happening to our social values, like the family and supporting what the family means, and absent fathers and what that does to the family and to sons and daughters. I mean, these are things that all these things need to be looked at again.
Looked at, absolutely. If elected to office, Marty, what can you do, if anything, to help get equal justice in this country, or do you think that's even possible?
Well, I mean, I've never seen anything like what's been going on in the last few years. The federal government and the Department of Justice and the FBI, it's obviously a two-tiered system where it feels like normal people who are conservative or Republican are being picked on. When you look at women who are just going to, let's say, an abortion clinic to sing or to protest peacefully, they're put in prison. And I was living in Seattle, during some of the ridiculous riots of 4 years ago, and Portland is just south of us, and seeing, the desecration and the rioting and the burning, the mostly peaceful demonstration, which of course were horribly ridiculous and criminal, and no consequences for that. And then you see social media, what's happened with, the Hunter laptop, all of this stuff it's so skewed. And that's why Donald Trump calls it the swamp. That's why it's probably an insult to the swamps of the world. It's actually a cesspool, and it needs to be
that, I
cleaned
like
up.
that.
Yeah.
I like
But
that.
Donald Trump is being nice, I think, when he calls it a swamp,
Yeah.
frankly.
Yeah. What do you think of this trial?
Oh, you've got to be, it's the most ridiculous. It makes us look
There's
so
going to be a
weak.
verdict today.
Yeah, do you think so?
I feel I do. I really do.
Well, I mean, the Democrats are going to use it. They're going to lie about whatever it is. They've been lying this whole time. I mean, when you look at, Hunter and his laptop and the things that were on there and the things that he's done with as a foreign agent, like, how is that okay compared to the completely bogus charges against President Trump? It's unbelievable to me.
It is. Public safety has to be a big concern with people in your district. People all over the country. Public safety is a concern.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the reasons we moved down here full time 3.5 years ago is my business in Seattle was in a part of town, Pioneer Square, which was one of these areas of town in Seattle that was getting more and more beautiful and getting more upscale, and there were cool businesses, and we just loved it. And then bang, the city council in Seattle was basically communists, and they just let the tent cities run rampant, and especially during COVID, it was just a joke. And I had people who couldn't even get off the bus because at a certain stop, if you got off the bus, you were stepping on needles. So one of the things I love about Las Vegas is somehow I think Las Vegas has more sanity in the city because they depend on the millions and millions of tourists that have to come, and you don't want to be stepping on needles. You don't want to be stepping around tents that should not be in the middle of sidewalks. But I'm starting to see some of that encroach here, and it causes between the illegal immigrants and the people living on the street. It's not safe, and the laws, if you no longer think a misdemeanor should be penalized, it will mean that felonies will become more prevalent, and you see it in every city where this is happening.
Yeah, good point.
So it's got
very
the
good.
law enforcement. This is why I'm so glad to see Joe Lombardo as governor, because I think he knows from law enforcement, right?
Yeah.
He knows how big a
between
deal
him
this
and
is.
Stavros,
Yeah,
lieutenant
absolutely.
governor.
Yeah.
They're very, very strong in that area. What have you got coming up as far as events where people can meet you one-on-one, shake your hand, ask you questions, that type of thing?
Oh, that's a good question. I should have looked at my schedule more. I basically
On your website?
Yes, you
All
can go to my website.
Tell everybody what your website.
So my
address
website is.
You want to volunteer? Get on his website. You want to donate? Get on his website.
Yeah, it's MARTYforCongress.com. It's very easy. Marty for Congress. FOR.
FOR.
Yeah. So MartyForCongress.com. We'll keep everybody up to date. All the videos and the commercials and the video messages that I give to people are all there, and in my platform and my positions, and anything that's coming up will be there too. I believe. Just last week, I had a meet and greet just up the street here a little bit, and then that was great at a coffee shop. I met a lot of people that were, had a lot of good questions.
Unfortunately, I was occupied somewhere else.
Sure.
I was not able to get out of the hospital bed. But I certainly would, would have gone.
I know June 8th is a big dinner coming up, so. That's, I think,
that's coming up pretty soon. Where's that?
That I don't remember, but it's a dinner for Donald Trump, and
I'll find out.
Yeah.
I'll find out. The media always likes to go to events where there's, where there is food and drink.
I could have my dates wrong because, I basically
check the website.
I get up in the morning and I look at the calendar.
You're told where to go. Go
here,
go.
Go there. Yeah, and pay for this and pay for that and make calls so you get contributions. It's an amazing. It's a very different career at this point for me than I've ever had. So
I think
I'm learning.
Everybody that's running for office. there's a lot of people in Congress, obviously. Personalities, I think, play a part in it as
Yep.
far as working together, becoming buddies, not as friends. It's got to get along. And it's a two-way street. And I think that takes a special kind of talent. And I believe that you have that. You're able to work with
Yep.
people and, hey, I understand, but look at my point of view.
Right. I've been basically in the entertainment business for my entire career.
Right.
Everybody has known, because I've never hidden it, but that I'm the most conservative person in every room. But that doesn't mean we can't work together, and that I can't lead a team to do and
Right.
create something really, really good. So in order to do that, you have to realize that people are more than just their political views.
Sure.
So, you can explain your politics, you can explain what you believe is right, you can hear what somebody else believes is correct, but then it's time to actually produce something.
Right.
And I have spent my entire life making things, right? Making things for people, hiring people, signing the front of the check. I've started several businesses. So you can't just be so rigid based on your principles that you alienate other
Right,
people.
totally.
So you have to get
100%.
things done.
100%.
But I don't think it's necessarily, somebody was asking me about this, about compromising. And I'm not sure if compromise is the kind of word, because I'm never going to compromise my principles, but you have to see when you can get something done that's good.
Yeah.
It might not be perfect, as you know, perfect is the enemy of the good.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to agree that this is the best thing that we can get done.
Right.
And but I'm not going to compromise
Yeah.
my fundamental principles. The idea of people are too comfortable in Washington. There's too much power. There's too many lobbyists. There's too much money. If I can just, in my time in Congress, if I can just tilt that power going out of D.C. and back to the states, even just a little bit,
Yeah.
I will feel like I've accomplished something.
Yeah.
So.
You will have that. That is very, very important. In office, how much connection, for lack of a better term right now, do you have with people here in Nevada, the executive branch, with the governor, with the city council, with the board of supervisors, with Metro even? You got to stay in touch.
Yeah. Well, like I said before, I have a feeling all of those people are going to have much more influence over my life and my family's life than I will over theirs, because I'm hoping the federal government is not in people's, it shouldn't get up in people's business, right, in Nevada, right? It should make life easier and be hands off.
Right.
But yeah, this will be a quick learning experience for me to get to know who are the people in Nevada that I need to know, who are the people in office I
Right.
need to know. I've been meeting a lot of people in the last couple of months, obviously, but I'm somewhat late to the party, so to speak, and Governor Lombardo's been, totally encouraging to me. I met with Stavros, who's really sweet guy,
Yes,
and
great guy.
and at all the the different women's Republicans clubs and
Yeah.
the Summerlin
Yep.
Club, blah blah
Yep,
blah,
yep, yep.
all those things. I'm meeting people all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean Metro and with April Becker, I'm so positive she's going to win county commissioner, which means it was funny when I was asking her
Finally
about
get a Republican on the board
Yeah.
board of supervisors.
this is how little I knew. I'm like, so how many county commissioners are there? And she said 7. And I said, so, how many Republicans? And she said 0.
Zero.
And I'm like, what? How is that even possible? So, and I grew up, I had my businesses in Chicago and Seattle, but I knew about Harry Reid. And, as far as I was concerned, Harry Reid was, he's that crook from Nevada. So I'm sorry. That's the way I felt about what was happening. And now I'm like, okay, the Democrats in Nevada have just way too much power. And
yeah.
it's just bad. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping to
Yeah.
help tilt that.
Yeah, and the governor needs that as far
Oh, yeah.
as the legislature to get a majority. So that's why I say you've got to help out. Anyway, Marty, thanks so much for
Yeah,
coming on.
Dennis.
Anything we could do to help you, just don't hesitate.
Well, okay, yeah.
Just and remember, MARTY4Congress.com. Check them out.
Yeah.
And give him a good look. If you could attend one of his events, meet him in person, do it. And remember, you got to vet everybody, agree with them or you don't agree with them, but you got to get out and vote. And of course, that's the most important thing.
Right. June 11th is the primary.
June 11th.
And I got to get through the primary in order
That's
to
right.
get to Washington.
In order
so.
to get to Washington. Very, very important.
Yeah.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Pick Your Politics. For Marty, I'm Dennis Silvers, and we're going to see you back same place, same time next week. So until then, so long, everybody.
Bye-bye.